Saya data.
Data ya.
Berkibarlah bendera negeriku, berkibarlah engkau di dadaku, tunjukkanlah kepada dunia semangatmu yang panas membara. Daku ingin jiwa raga ini selaraskan keanggunan. Daku ingin jemariku ini menuliskan karismamu. Berkibarlah bendera negeriku, berkibar di luas nuansamu. Tunjukkanlah
Bu Faris ya. Kalau cari backgroundnya kok nggak bisa saya ya? Gimana ya?
budi bahasamu.
Bisa di chat mungkin Pak ya.
Ya? Udah saya download sih, cuman saya kok nggak tahu di mana ininya. Jarang ganti-ganti nih. Just background effects apa ya?
Just background and effect. Kemudian nanti
Terus filter.
pilih adjust background and effect itu Pak.
Hah?
Pilih adjust background and effect.
Oke.
Kemudian nanti kan itu ada muncul tanda plus di foto Bapak itu ada tanda plus, pilih yang Bapak simpan.
Oke. Ini Bu Susilo ya?
Betul
Bu
Pak.
Susi ya?
Ya betul
Terima
Pak.
kasih Bu Susi.
Sama-sama Pak. Sehat selalu.
Jarang seperti itu.
Sudah Pak, sudah.
Good. Terima kasih Bu Susi. morning, Hung.
Oi,
Dr. Hung, good morning.
oh, sorry, I'm meeting. Good morning, Dr. Hasil. How are you?
Good. Morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for participating, Hung.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
How is
Fortunately,
the straw?
yeah. Fortunately, I'm still able to join this. I just arrived from the Philippines to Vietnam
Vietnam?
this early morning. Yeah.
Oh. How is the straw management? Gaga doesn't tell me anything now.
That one is that project is mainly just capacity building. We are still do some assessment and in Vietnam and Cambodia first this year, and then hopefully end of this year or next year we will do a workshop in Indonesia with some major technologies, and
good.
Hopefully we can propose somehow to include rice straw management in Indonesia. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I asked Gagat, maybe we can make the experiment in Sukamandi. Have you visited Sukamandi, Hung?
Sukamandi, I think so. Yeah. Is
Sorry.
including Korigap or the RCM before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think.
Sorry, Pak Kapus. Hung, I think the time is. They would like to start. Silakan.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Dimulai saja, Ibu Mulyani. Atau menunggu yang lain, pembicara yang lain, Andro dan Kato.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Teras TP number 4, webinar series hosted by the Research Center for Food Groups, under the Research Organization for Agriculture and Food, National Research and Innovation Agency. We are delighted that all participants joined us today via Zoom and the BRIN Indonesia YouTube channel. A warm welcome to our YouTube viewers. Thank you for being part of this important discussion. Before we begin, please allow us to share a few housekeeping notes. Kindly mute your microphone while the speakers are presenting to avoid background noise. The moderator will later explain the technical procedures for the discussion and Q&A session. And then please rename your Zoom display using the format your name _ organization. You are welcome to use the official virtual background provided by the committee on the chat box. And the last, attendance and e-certificate forms will be shared via the chat box. And please make sure to fill them out to receive your certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will begin the webinar. Before that, allow me to begin with a short pantun. Morning breaks with hopeful light. Knowledge grows like fields of green. Welcome all with heart so bright to this forum where insight reign. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Teras TP number 4 webinar series. Thank you to you all for attending this webinar. I am Mulyani. I'm honored to serve as the master of ceremony for today's webinar. At this moment, I would like to acknowledge and warmly welcome our honorable guests and speakers. The Honorable Chairman of Research Organization for Agriculture and Food, National Research and Innovation Agency, Mrs. Puji Lestari, SP, MSc, PhD. Distinguished Head of Research Center for Food Crops, under Research Organization for Agriculture and Food, Dr. Yudhistira Nugraha, SPMP. Our distinguished speakers, Dr. Hung Nguyen Phan, Senior Scientist from International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. Dr. Ando Merit Reddy Nelson, Senior Scientist from International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. And Professor Yoshiro Kato from the University of Tokyo, Japan. Our distinguished moderator for today, Professor Hasil Sembiring, Senior Scientist from Research Center for Food Crops, and also all participants of Teras TP number 4 webinar series who have joined from both Zoom and the BRIN Indonesia YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, for blessing us and allowing us to attend to this event in good condition. Welcome to Teras TP number 4 webinar series on research and innovations to improve the efficiency and sustainability of rice production. Today, Wednesday, 11th of June 2025, the webinar is presented by Research Center for Food Crops under Research Organization for Agriculture and Food, National Research and Innovation Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin the next agenda, allow me to briefly walk you through today's agenda. The first, opening remarks by Chairman of Research Organization for Agriculture and Food. And the second, welcome remarks by Head of Research Center for Food Crops. The third, group photo session. The fourth, sharing session and discussion. The fifth, appreciation and awarding session. And the last is closing session. Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is opening remarks by Chairman of Research Organization for Agriculture and Food. As Mrs. Puji is currently attending to another important official duty, she cannot be present with us today. However, in her commitment to this event, she has kindly recorded a special message, which we now invite you to watch.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Research Organization for Agriculture and Food, it is my honor to welcome all of you to this webinar entitled Research and Innovation to Improve the Efficiency and Stability of Rice Production. And here we are honored to have your participation in this important event, which can bring together a diverse community of researchers, practitioners, and stakeholders committed to advance sustainable rice cultivation through science and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are aware that rice is a fundamental component of global food security, consumed by more than half of the world population. However, the path toward maintaining and enhancing its productivity must now be aligned with sustainability and resilience of climate change. Facing this challenge, such as climate change, limited natural resources, and the growing demand for food, it's clear that innovation and research are more critical than ever. So hopefully this webinar brings together a community of experts, as I mentioned at the beginning, and our stakeholders, researchers, including BRIN and external, who are committed, of course, to increase rice production through science, technology, and collaborative effort. And this available webinar also can provide an important platform for knowledge sharing, learning, and collaboration. Here we are with distinguished speakers and knowledgeable and leading effort in this field, Dr. Hung Nguyen Phan and Dr. Anda Radha Nelson, both from the International Rice Research Institute in the Philippines. And also we have Professor Yoichiro Kato from the University of Tokyo, Japan. Their contribution to rice research and innovation are widely recognized, and we are truly fortunate to have them sharing their insight and expertise with us today. And we encourage all participants to actively engage during the webinar. Please have a fruitful discussion and share experience. It is through collaboration and knowledge sharing that we can drive meaningful progress. Thanks to the head of the center for food crops, Dr. Yudhistira and Nugraha, who are committed to organize this webinar series. From 1 and 2D, we have international webinar that can be beneficial not only for BRIN but also in national level. Once again, thank you for joining us, and special thanks to the organizer of this webinar in the Research Center for Food Crops to make this event possible. And I apologize that I could not join this webinar due to another obligation. Look forward to a productive and insightful session. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mrs. Puji Lestari, for your inspiring work in opening this event. Next, please welcome Dr. Yudhistira Nugraha, Head of the Research Center for Food Crops, will share his welcome remarks. To Dr. Yudhistira Nugraha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ibu Mulyani. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Good morning, everyone. The distinguished speaker, Dr. Nguyen Phan, Ando M. Radilson from International Rice Research Institute. And also we have Professor Yuichiro Kato from University of Tokyo. And also we have a good moderator here, Professor Hasil Sembiring. And we also thank to esteemed guest participant. I am honorable to address you today in the opening of this webinar, the Teras TV 4. It is a monthly webinar presented by Research Center for Food Crop. And today, a webinar will be very interesting, of course, because we will discuss about a critical issue for Indonesia. It is the rice production and sustainability and efficiency technology. So in 2024, the government Indonesia have proudly announced that have a significant achievement. We have a surplus about 4 million tons of rice. This because attributed to the expanded planting area and also intensive crop management. So these milestones signal that we will reach the victory to pursue food security. This accomplishment, of course, is come from the concerted effort from the first stakeholder, including coordination among Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Coordination for Food, and Ministry of Public Working and Housing, for farmers, extension workers, local governors, and also private sector. So this is very promising vision for our national self-sufficient. However, this success, of course, we have reality that we have to face attention about the sustainability. So while we have increasing the rice production, and also it impacted to our economy, the cost of rice production in Indonesia notably higher than if it compared with other Asian country. The data from Indonesian Statistic or BPS indicate that our rice production cost per hectare is around 12.5 million rupiah, or about $850 per hectare. Is higher compared to the Asian country like Thailand or Vietnam. So this disparity affect our competitiveness and also affordability for rice consumer. This addressing of costs because of inefficiency in the production And of course, it also impact in the sustainability and in the environmentally safe. So, furthermore, we must knowledge the environment and also to inherent the intensive rice cultivation, land degradation, outbreak of pests and disease, and escalating of climate change will treat to the long-term sustainability of our rice production. This challenge initiate a shift toward more environmentally responsibility and resilient farming practice. So in the today webinar, we offer a crucial platform to learn from the expertise of other country. We will deliver the lesson learned from Vietnam and International Rice Research Institute and other nations who have successfully reduced the production cost while it can be maintaining for the enhancing productivity. By examining their strategy, innovation, and policy, we can identify valuable insight applicable to Indonesian context. As we embark on this discussion, let us remember that the future of rice Indonesia is depend to our ability to balance the productivity, economical availability, and environmental sustainability. I'm confident that through this collaborative dialogue and discussion, we can have informed action. We can chart a course toward a more resilient and prosperous rice sector for Indonesia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Yudhistira Nugraha, for your welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with a brief photo session. Please activate your cameras and stay on Zoom. I will guide you. For the first slide, 1, 2, 3. And the second slide, 1, 2, 3. And the committee will capture the moment for the rest of the slides. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our moderator for today. As provided on the screen, Professor Hasil Sembiring, PhD. His CV is provided on screen. He is a leading figure in agricultural research and has been a research professor at BRIN since 2018. He holds a bachelor's degree from IPB University and completed both his master's and PhD in soil sciences at Oklahoma State University in the United States. Professor Hasil Sembiring has had a remarkable career, including key leadership roles such as Director General of Food Crops at the Ministry of Agriculture from 2015 to 2017. He currently represents the International Rice Research Institute in Indonesia and also serves on the Ministry of Agriculture expert team. His research journey spans decades. He has published widely with over 1,400 citations and strong recognition in the academic world. With his broad experience and deep knowledge, we are truly honored to have him lead today's session. With great pleasure, let's welcome Professor Hasil Sembiring to lead the sharing session. To Professor Hasil Sembiring, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Bu Mulyani. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hung. Good morning, Ando and Dr. Kato. I hope everybody is well. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm sure we will gain valuable insights from our distinguished speakers. Most of them, I know them for a long time, on how to improve the efficiency and sustainability of rice production. Our speakers are well-known experts in their respective fields, and we are privileged to learn from some of the best minds in rice research globally. Today, we will have the three speakers, Dr. Hung Nguyen Van. Welcome, Hung. He is going to present sustainable rice production in eco-friendly cultivation, lesson learned from the 1 million hectare high quality and low emission rice program in Vietnam. This is a big program, especially for IRI and Vietnam. And the second speaker is Dr. Ando Radi Nelson. She will present low emission rice practices and co-benefits for cropping system sustainability. And the third is Dr. Yohiro Kato from the University of Tokyo. He will presenting sustainable development of rice-based system in Asia. As outlined by organizing committee, our webinar will be conducted in 2 sessions. The first session will feature Dr. Hung and Dr. Ando, and each speaker will have 25 minutes for their presentation and then followed by 30-minute discussion. However, for the second session, we will feature Dr. Kato followed by a 15-minute discussion. Without further ado, let me invite our first speaker, Dr. Hung Nguyen Van from IRI. Dr. Hung is a senior scientist and the leader for the mechanization and for harvest at the International Rice Research Institute, IRI. He holds a PhD in agriculture engineering from the Slovak University of Agriculture in 2023. His recent professional experience, including senior scientist and leader for mechanization and forced harvest at IRI from 2022 up to now, scientist, mechanization and forced harvest at IRI 2017 and 2022. He also postdoc fellow at IRI in 2013, 2017, and now associate professor agriculture machinery, Nong Lam University, Vietnam, from 2012 up to now. His key research project has been involved in like Fertilize Right Vietnam 2023-2027, which is funded by USDA, and Sustainable and Low Carbon Rice Production in Southeast Asia 2024-2026, funded by Taiwan, ICDF, and Rice Straw Circular Economy in Cambodia and Vietnam 2023-2026, and Sustainable Rice Platform Promotion in Vietnam from 2021-2024, funded by GIZ. Rice Straw Innovation in Vietnam 2020-2023, A Extension in Laos, VDR 2022 and 2023. And Sustainable Rice Straw Management in Cambodia and Vietnam and Philippines in 2016-2019. Once again, the title of his presentation is Sustainable Rice Production in Eco-Friendly Cultivation, Lesson Learned from the 1 million hectare high quality and low emission rice program in Vietnam. Let us give him a warm round of applause. Dr. Hung, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hashim. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I will present from my side. think just going to this one. Good morning, everyone. Can you see my slide and can you hear me well?
Yes, Hung. Clear
Okay.
and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So, my talk about just overview about 1 million hectare high quality and low emission rice production program in Vietnam, about its contribution and some lesson learned for adoption or successful story. So with the key points, rice productions, challenges and gaps in the Mekong River Delta of Vietnam, data-driven innovation and 1 million hectare program, and then some lesson learned. So Vietnam is annually produce about 44 million tons of rice, and the Mekong River Delta is we call rice bowl of Vietnam, contribute to 50% of rice production in Vietnam, and the main region for exporting rice, about 7 million tons of rice exportations annually. Vietnam is one of the top 3 countries exporting rice to other global community. In the Mekong River deltas, we have a cropping system, diversified cropping system with single crop rice, mainly in the coastal area, salinity inclusion, and double crop rice with one intensification or rotation crops like a mung bean or soybean or some other vegetable. And then more than 50% is triple crop season. It is rice, which short duration rice variety is lower than 100 days per crop season. The major problems currently is a traditional rice farming practice. So we call low farming efficiency and high carbon footprint or greenhouse gas emission. So still at the moment is a high seed rate is more than 120 kilogram per hectare using manual broadcast seeding or blower seeding with the knapsack blower seeding. So because of non-uniform, so and then not unwell land preparation, so it requires high seed rate. And high seed rate, it means that it requires high fertilizer use, like more than 110 kilogram N per hectare, and associated with continuous flooding and and rice straw incorporation in the wet field, rice straw burning, so it called high pollution, high environmental footprint and greenhouse gas emission. In addition, so harvest and post-harvest losses is another issue. It's a weak high density of rice seedling or high seed rates, so it causes lodging, and because of weather, because of the flooding, so high post-harvest losses. The value chain issue, for example, is usually sowing at the same time to optimize management of pest disease. So harvesting at the same time, so it causes labor shortage and also machinery shortage problem during the harvesting season. So not enough combined harvester, not enough drying facility, so it causes high post-harvest losses because of delay of harvesting. And also you can see in the picture is the logistic issues. Is a lot of paddy in the boat or ferries waiting along the river, and then if after 24 hours waiting or delay, so it causes high quality loss. Usually it's around 0.5 to 1% of losses per day of delay of drying. So how to sort out with several previous projects, And now is from the end of 2023, the government is start to work with IRI to develop to design the program or initiative we call 1 million hectare high quality and low emission rice program in Vietnam. High quality is a high value chain quality, not only like a high quality varieties, but high quality in terms of crop productions, processing, and value chain coordination. So what it is, so based on the sustainable and low carbon farming innovation like mechanized or precision direct seeding, IWD, the site-specific nutrient management, rice straw management, etc. So and associated with capacity development and scaling scheme. So support to develop high quality and low emission rice program in Vietnam. So what we support is we support them to develop database and tools for optimization farming system, climate adaptation and mitigation, develop and validate the national technical guidelines associated with the modernized and low carbon farming practice or technologies, as mentioned, and then MRV and carbon credits. MRV is monitoring, reporting, and verifications for greenhouse gas emission or carbon footprint. So the first one is not only in Vietnam but in other countries, we need a synchronized database for the low emission for the rice strategy, because for example, we need to know what are the available tools or application or database, what are the technologies, is mapping the environment or ecology condition, policy, financing, human resources, etc. So we integrate together with the data, available data from the climate adaptation, the other tools, mapping, the soil nutrient map, rice straw management mapping, etc. So based on that, we can optimize investment. For example, if there's some funding from donor or from government, how are the optimal investment for the purpose of high quality or high productivity and low emission? Optimize cropping system. So we should remain pre-crop season or two crop season, and where we should where are the suitable region for optimize for two crop season, one crop season, or three crop season, or change to other crops, not necessarily rice. And optimize value chains, optimize human resources, efforts, and optimize corporations or network, what partners we need, etc. So here is going to the technical guidelines for 1 million hectare program. So maybe the colleagues in the rice productions, so we are familiar with this. So let's say from land preparation to post-harvest. So here is for land preparations. So we need laser land leveling. If the field, we set the level for the field is 5 centimeters difference, maximum difference. However, land preparation is laser land leveling is not always available in every country. So we set some roadmap for that. For seeding, we need to use a precision farming, like a mechanized direct seeding, row seeding, or hill seeding, instead of transplanting, because transplanting is a very high cost. So we use mechanized direct seeding. Now it's combined with fertilizer displacement. For fertilizer application, we need to apply for site-specific nutrient management, like a rice crop manager application, one of the tools well adopted in Indonesia. Congratulations. And then pest management. So we also need to apply this integrated pest management practice. And along with that, we need to apply this multiple drainage system or IWD, alternate wetting and drying water management. For harvest, we need two things. One is harvest at the right time, and using combined harvester to reduce post-harvest losses. For post-harvest, it's optimize post-harvest management, and we have a protocol for drying, for storage, and for milling. And for store management, we need to apply is a rice straw based circular economy. For example, say remove in-field and off-field option. In-field
Karena itu kan jam 8 udah selesai. Udah kecapean. Tertidur.
Mau lihat? Silakan, Pak.
Ada lihat?
Enggak ada.
Enggak.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Bung.
It's okay. Okay, so then here's some highlighted technology for high productivity and low emission rice. First one is water management. It's very important, the most important for reduce greenhouse gas emission, methane emission particularly. So we need to do from landscape, optimize from landscape down to the field level. So here we support the government to develop the salinity risk information map, not only for the optimized cropping system, but also for water management as well. And then in the field level, so we need to have a water level sensor, or how to develop a protocol or framework for monitoring water in the field, whether it's integrated remote sensing down to the water level sensor, or manual water level monitoring as well. Of course, we need to consider the cost, investment cost for this MRV system. Site-specific nutrient management and rice crop manager application. I don't need to talk about this because I think it's I heard that it's well adopted in the country. In Vietnam, we try to simplify the question for the farmer, because the current versions of RCM is a lot of question. Is a farmer is usually lazy to input the data, and that one is it cause some it cause the barrier for adoption of RCM. So we need to simplify it and make it more smarter. For example, it's integrated with the soil nutrient map, and also data driven from the available data, the survey data, and also the remote sensing data as well. Mechanized direct seeding combined fertilizer displacement. This one is actually an innovation to change the farming system. So you can see in the video, hopefully you can see that. So now change from broadcast seeding to precision farming combined with fertilizer displacement. The first thing is already demonstrated under 1 million hectare program, reduce seed rates. Now it's under 60 kilogram per hectare. It changed not only the technical aspect, but also changed behavior of farmers to buy certified seed because of the same budget. So they can buy certified seed with only 60 kilogram per hectare, even though the cost of seed is higher. And if buying certified seed, so to enable or secure the productivity, to avoid weeds, etc. Combined with fertilizer displacement, so it can reduce only apply 2 times, so it can reduce around 20 to 30% of N apply. For example, it's only 70 to 80 kilogram N per hectare with this practice. Yeah, in several countries, N is still very high. Like under RCM, N is around 100 to 140 kilogram per hectare. It depends on the yield targets and the soil nutrient. But based on RCM, we reduce further is 20% with this technology, because combined fertilizer displacement increase the efficiency of nutrients uptake. for rice plant. Reduce density, precision farming, so it reduce pest pressure, pest disease, so it reduce pesticide application around 30%, and reduce lodging. It means that it reduce around 5% profits.
Oke,
So
kira apa ibu nelpon?
a demonstration.
Lagi nih.
Sorry, this is a demonstration of how to improve the farming efficiency. You can see the pictures of broadcasting at the bottom, and then the precision farming on the top of the slide. So you can see the roots of the plant is also much better with the mechanized precision direct seeding. And for greenhouse gas emission, it reduce fertilizer. It means that reduce N2O emission, and one N2O is around 280 times of greenhouse gas emission equivalent, CO2 equivalent. It reduce density of rice. It reduce a chance of diffusion of a chance of methane emission, and associated with water management, rice straw management. So it being able to reduce significantly reduce greenhouse gas emission. For rice straw management, we also develop a national technical guideline, and it certified as advanced innovation in Vietnam. So for rice cultivation, we remove rice straw for the rice stubble using mechanization combined with microbiotechnology like inoculants to improve decomposition of rice stubble in the field, and rice straw for mushroom production for cattle fish, and then mulching and using the waste after mushroom production and cattle fish, and other crop production or crop waste. So we can produce organic fertilizer or biofertilizer and get back to rice field or other crops as well. So you can see in several pictures there. So this one is not burning rice straw in the field, not incorporate rice straw in the wet field to avoid the increase of greenhouse gas emission, and add value to the rice value chain, at least 10%. One of the main issue is for rice productions, low income is the weak linkage between farmers and markets, other stakeholders along rice value chains. So we are piloting and testing the easy farm matchmaking between farmers and other stakeholders along rice value chain. So this app is to enable farmers to have a well linkage or selections of fertilizer dealer, the mechanization service provider, and also they are able to sell rice or other byproducts like a mushroom, like a rice straw to the markets easily, because the other stakeholders of clients or the service provider, they well match or see each other or see the farmers' fields, farmer products together under this application. Together is at the moment is we have around 8 pilot model. So it demonstrates reduce greenhouse gas emission under the 1 million hectare practice or technical package. So in the Mekong data because of the mainly is a planting field and then rice straw incorporation, high emission, so more than 10 tons CO2 equivalents per hectare. So now we are able to reduce to 50% under the pilots, not for the entire whole Mekong River Delta yet, but for the pilot farm. So it is demonstrating the greenhouse gas emission reductions. Adoption of 1 million hectare high quality and low emission. Until now is we have around 600 hectare piloted starting from 2024. But the government target is around 1 million hectare by 2030. and we still have some niche collaborative opportunities for for global community. So data driven for optimized cropping system and management for 1 million hectare program. Improve value chain for example, as I mentioned, is matchmaking application and digital agriculture business model. The MRV system is still inadequate or not well adopted yet for carbon credit, and we still need to develop further is AI-based effective capacity building, extension, etc. Here are some lesson learned factors for adoption. The first one is a modernized, scale appropriate, and affordable technologies. So I mean that is for the farmers, if we want to introduce technologies well adopted, so we need it is a new change something different. Scale appropriate, it means that it much or suitable for the value chain condition, and affordable for farmers to accept that, whether through farmer, usually is in the Mekong River data is for a farmer cooperatives or farmer groups. It is not necessary for small farmers, individual farmers. Value chain coordination and policy support, so solid from government to farmers. Strong, we need a strong public-private partnership roles and benefits. For example, is government need ERI to support to develop the national technical guideline and technologies. What the government is like a ministry of agriculture and environment, so their role is very clear. Is supporting to issue or release the national technical guideline, the regulation, the support for finance, etc. Private sector also very clear roles and their benefits, so they are in the game, and then they are the main actors to change the game. And of course, farmer cooperatives is the most important because they are the one to adopt the technologies. We need the practice or the whole technical package need to demonstrate it add value to the value chains. For example, is as I mentioned, like a rice stock can increase 10% of the mechanized direct decline is can reduce cost of productions and co-benefits. For example, is a premium low carbon rice brand export recently is Vietnam is export around I don't remember exactly the number, but to Japan, the first batch of low carbon rice, just testing the market and certified by Vietnam Rice Sector Association, and also potential carbon credits if adding value and co-benefits with farmers. So it is have a high potential adoptions. And it original at the end is from ED side, we book really strongly suggest is we need a regional or global high productivity and low carbon rice consortium or platform for knowledge exchange and promotion the technologies, technical coordination policy working together is in a regional level and market level, global market level. With that, thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Hashim. Yeah.
Thank you, Hung. Thank you so much. Comprehensive. Looks like so sophisticated, Hung. Full mechanized, environmentally friendly, reduce fertilizer use. Wow. Maybe we need to see that, Hung, next time. Thank you, Hung, again.
Thank you.
For the participants, I think you can also write your questions. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Budi is already say something in the chat, Hung. For the participants, you may hold your questions, and later on maybe you can or you can write your question to Hung or speakers on the chat. Thank you, Hung, again. So Now we are going to invite our second speakers of this session, Dr. Ando Radi Nelson. And Ando, are you already with us? Okay.
Yes, I am here. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Ando. Thank you. The title of her presentation is Low Emission Rice Practices and Co-Benefits for Cropping System Sustainability. Dr. Ando is a senior scientist and environmental and climate change specialist at IRI. She earned her PhD in integrative plant biology from the Montpellier National Institute of Agronomy, France, in 2011. Her recent professional experience, including senior scientist, environment and climate change specialist from April 2023 up to present, senior research fellow, agriculture system modeler, Center for Sustainable Agriculture System, University of Southern Queensland, from November 2018 and January 2023. Cropping System Modeler at IRI, November 2015-2018, and postdoc fellow in rice crop and rice-based cropping system modeling at IRI from 2011-2015. Ando has a lot of expertise, including crop and cropping system modeling, farming system management, climate change, salinity, precision agriculture, GIS, and remote sensing. Her publication, she published a lot of publication, as you can see in the screen, and Ando knows Indonesia a lot also, right, Ando? Once again, her presentation is Low Emission Rice Practice and Co-Benefits for Cropping System Sustainability. Let's give her a warm round of applause. Ando, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassel-Sambring, for that introduction. And I'm very pleased to be here with you. And thank you as well for the organizer to invite me. So I'm going to share my screen, right, Setya? So I share my screen, my entire screen. I share. Yes, and you're right. I know very well Indonesia, and I think it's been a while. I didn't travel there. It's kind of I miss everything, but hopefully we will expand more IRI's collaborations, and I will be more than happy to explore further more on that as well. I think at the end of his presentation. So you certainly be aware that IRI is celebrating its 65th anniversary, and we have a different event that's happening this week, and I'm very pleased actually to kind of include my participation into this webinar as part of this anniversary celebration. So for today, Hong has already kind of provided you a lot of information on our interventions and strategy around sustainability and developing low carbon rice system. So I will certainly just provide a kind of a brief of based on from Hank presentations and how that will be just kind of focusing on the emissions perspective and mitigations benefits, but as well linking that with all the different indicators of sustainability. So my presentation today will be about low emission rice practice, and then the documentations of co-benefits for cropping system sustainability in rice-based cropping system. So yes, I think it's very interesting because nowadays when we present, particularly this year, we always kind of bringing back a bit in history about IRI. So IRI has been established 65 years ago with the main focus on reducing hunger, food insecurity, and poverty. That really has built IRI legacy and IRI's impact. And I think IRI has quite a very successful outcomes based on this primary objective and its foundations. Rice is a key important sector for global sustainable development because it feeds 4 billion people. It's supporting millions of farmers as term of livelihoods. It's as well an economic enterprise having annual values of $206 billion per year. It used 10% of the total cropland globally and used 15% of world total fertilizer use and 35% of world total irrigation water. So as you can see here, rice, as I mentioned earlier, play key roles in sustainable development and in address different key outcomes and impact areas of the SDGs. And we have just highlight 3 here. Among one where rice as well is leading is climate actions, because rice is among the main source of man-made or man-produced methane emissions globally, and it's aligned with other sectors such as the oil and gas and the coal mining. And so rice is one of a source of emissions and mainly for methane. In putting that into perspective in terms of numbers, in one of the research that we've done here in Los Baños, in the Philippines for a dry season crop, emissions can be as high as 4.1 ton of CO2 equivalent per hectare, and that's for the durations of 6 months of rice production, which is really long, but because now with short duration varieties, we're just going to go for 100 days and even lower than that. But with this value, the equivalence of that is running a small car, a Toyota Corolla, for about 31,500 kilometers. So probably the numbers of 7% may be like kind of significant and maybe not attract attention. But as you can see here, the contribution of rice can be very much significant as individual responsibility contributions. And so with that in mind, we can as well think about country which is really have large areas of rice, such the Indonesia and the Vietnam earlier, with millions of hectares of emissions. Mitigations at rice fields can really contribute significantly for the country to meet their climate goals. So from where are greenhouse gas in rice systems? And I think that's not really something new for everyone. It's stemmed from the continuous flooded environment of rice field, and this is a kind of a conventional one. Where once we have ponded water and maintained water levels in the field, we create an environment of anaerobic conditions with a lack of oxygens, and that's leads to a decomposition of organic matter under anaerobic digestance, and methane is a byproduct of that. So that's really one of the main source of greenhouse gas process in rice fields. But as well, the way how we manage straw, and I think Hang has very much highlight on that earlier in a previous presentation. So with incorporations of straw in the fields, that's increased availability of organic matter, and then associate that with the ponded water, we have an increased emissions as well. The other way how as well greenhouse gas can emit it from rice field is from burning the straw. So burning the straw will release a high significantly amount of CO2, but not even just that, but just kind of general pollutant as well in the field. The other main source as well is fertilizer. So sorry, my slides are not very well formatted here, but the process of nitrifications and denitrifications as an kind of alternate process when the rice field moves from flooded and non-flooded can as well create another potent greenhouse gas, which is nitrous oxide. So this, in a nutshell, kind of like the drivers of in-field emissions of emissions from rice, and this is where all the different interventions can be mapped for significant impact. But in addition of this management practice that's really kind of a leading the emissions, we have as well the variability of environment in rice systems. So in the map here that you see is the range of variability of methane emissions in rice systems globally around rice growing areas. And as you can see in blue, it can range as low as 0.5 kilograms per hectare per year, up to 500 kilograms per hectare per year. And the orange area here in Southeast Asia and South Asia, where we have the the majority of rice areas globally are around the orange to red area. So we are very much in high emitting environments. And that certainly as well drives the significant contributions of rice for mitigations in these regions. So what is the potentials of rice for mitigations? So rice is basically the third source of non-CO2 greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector. So that's after the livestock, then the croplands together. And then, like as I mentioned earlier, the main source is because of the water management in rice field. But rice is grown under different environments. It's not that all rice systems is the same, not that all rice systems has ponded water. So as you can see, this is a kind of an old data, and it's one of the and how to update actually the knowledge and the information that we have to guide mitigations practice, because understanding the distributions on what are the conditions and how rice are going is really key to have relevant interventions in terms of mitigations. But in this graph here, what you can see is that 50% of land where rice is grown is irrigated, and this is where mitigations can be very much significant in terms of interventions for water, but as well in terms of intensive sustainability management for the straw. So for these areas, we have a kind of a good estimate of the potentials for mitigations. It's among the first, biggest and the largest mitigations potentials in the ag sector. So rice has around 225 megatons of CO2 equivalents of potentials of reductions of emissions, and that represents around 1/3 of the total emissions in rice, and it's as high as you can obtain from mitigations in the livestock, and of course croplands, because it has a low opportunities for mitigation, because as well it has low contributions. So how may look like an integrated solutions to transform rice systems towards low emission? It has to really be a kind of like not just one solution that will address, it has to be combined and integrated. So we can start to think about looking into the variety. We can start to look into the in-cropping seasons management, and then as well, everything's around the capability and enabling means to allow the adoptions of this low emission system. So that's in terms of mechanizations and digitalizations. So basically, innovations in the varieties development can look into low emitting variety, can look into climate resilient varieties where we have, for example, the short duration varieties or varieties that's adapted to AWD or direct seeded rice. We can look into higher efficiency if use of nutrients. Then we can tackle the problems with high nitrous oxide emissions due to fertilizer applications, for instance. And we are looking into herbicide tolerance, because that will promote practice such as direct seeded rice, where very much conducive to have reduced water use, thus reduced period of flooding in the system. So varieties will be driving some of these integrated solutions. And then, like as I mentioned earlier as well, everything's around optimizing the cropping management, integrations of cropping management. And we can look into low environmental impact. So among the solutions can be the use of nitrification inhibitor, the use of enhanced efficiency fertilizers, the use of methane inhibitors, and that's something novel that we're exploring right now. But that's where the thoughts and then the process in developing solutions for low emission system goes. And like as I mentioned earlier, these are certainly novel solutions, novel technologies, and they will be much more accelerated for their adoptions and disseminations when they are combined with different tools that will address mechanizations and digitalizations, and that's where we can reach impact at farmers level. So the large amount of investment and effort that's been done so far in terms of developing a low emission system is looking into water management. And because, like as I mentioned earlier, continuous flooding is one of the main drivers of this emission. So changing water management, improving water management is like the first entry points, and all of the different initiatives globally in all rice growing areas to reduce emission. So we can think about changing completely and moving away from continuous flooded and have aerobic rise. So we are thinking about surface irrigation, sprinkler irrigations, or drip irrigations. We can think as well about changing as well the land preparations, and here is really important because the way how we prepare land can has impact as well on how we're going to manage the water. The changing crop establishment, just moving from transplanted to dry or wet seeded rice is already a big change, and that allows the other management practice to be easily implemented and adopted by farmers. So by changing crop establishment, farmers will change land preparations, and changing land preparations will lead to irrigation management. And of course, as well, the in-season water management, which is like the first step that would be easy to implement, right? So from continuous flooded, we just reduce the durations of flooding period in the field, and that will already address emissions. So this is like the first entry point on how is low emission system is driving forward, and these are existing technologies, and the main intervention is like how really to optimize them. So for AWD in particular, it has been already well documented and well proven, and Hang has already mentioned that to you earlier. It's reduced water use 50 to 30%, and that's already addressing and huge sustainability indicators for rice system. And that saved water can be distributed in large areas that will allow further crop productions, allows diversifications, but allows also intensifications, which is like increasing then access for farmers to more favorable conditions of productions, and that will address problems of profitability and as well productivities in terms of water use. And then so one of the highlights that I mentioned earlier is about methane reductions. So it has been very much well documented as well that it's reduced methane emissions by 50%. I'm not going to go in details on describing what AWD, because I would assume that we kind of like by now know, because AWD has been around since mid-90s up to the present time. So it's kind of be around 30 years, 35 years by now. And its main objective is to reduce water, and that reduced waters will allow water distributions. And that's really the value of AWD. And I think for farmers with problems of water scarcity that we have, that's really where their interest is, where the gains that we have through emissions and carbon access for carbon benefit access is kind of like a co-benefit of AWD. But as the conversations around sustainability and interest in rice system goes, we are now moving a bit into like, okay, AWD mitigation strategy, and we have co-benefit from AWD. So we kind of reverse a bit the narrative of this, but all of these things is really aiming to ensure that farmers have access to all of these benefits. So how looks like the greenhouse gas patterns in rice system under AWD? So continuous flooded, as you can see in this graph here, on the y-axis, we have the rate of emissions per hours, and you have on the y-axis is during the along the cropping season. So in blue, it's continuous flooded, and in green is AWD. And this is really kind of a straightforward. There's not much really convincing to do with this. We can really see that by implementing AWD that we start 14 days after transplanting, you're going to have a significant reductions of emission. And this is valid for dry seasons conditions where farmers have control of their water, and they can really design and implement properly an AWD. So in terms of nitrous oxide, so this is where we have a kind of some negative impact of AWD in the system, is that nitrous oxide is controlled with the ponded water. And so you have the emission here again, it's the rate per hours per meter square. So in blue is the continuous flooded, and in green is the AWD. So at the peak points that you've seen here, that we can even map along this the scale of my graph, these are the fertilizer applications. At this specific point, nitrous oxide will peak way higher than what is expected in the continuous flooded, and this is because of the aerobic conditions and the dry event that's happened under AWD. So in cumulated over the seasons, you can have about 2.2 kilograms of nitrous oxide emitted, but that amount can express very high, as you can see here in this graph. So countries flooded is in blue, so 100% of emissions. With AWD, you can have a decline of that 100% up to 70% for methane. And for nitrous oxide, what's happening is that you can even have more than 100% of increase. But if you translate that into a global warming potentials based on the amount of methane nitrous oxide we have about 6% contributions of nitrous oxide under AWD. And that 6% can be offset by just 1% of reductions of the methane emissions. So when the conversation goes around reductions of emissions in AWD and where nitrous oxide becomes a part of the conversation, it's just because, yes, it will increase, but that amount is largely offset with the methane emissions. But then if we move from continuous flooded, AWD, and aerobic rise, then the conversations will be as well different, because then contributions of nitrous oxide will be much more higher under aerobic system. But again, that will be a different systems, and then the evaluations of mitigation potentials would be different. So that's for the water. It's very well documented. It's all very much available. But we have as well tried to run a kind of a summary of what are the other benefits that we gain from other practice. So strong management and mainly timing for the residue incorporations can lead to 10% of reductions of emission. The choice of a variety from long durations or medium durations to short durations can gain up to 7%. And then as well, removal of straw or other alternative use of a straw from the field can add on top of that 15%. So if all of these practices will be integrated, and these are not requiring that significant technology advancement, farmers can have access around 65% of reductions. But again, it's not always like additive, because it's variables based on the system, but based as well on what is the current practice. Not all farmers are incorporating residue or remove their residue. Not all farmers are burning, and at the same time as well, not all system will be much productive using short duration varieties. So where our research goes from there. So we have all of this evidence that's been compiled. So where the research goes from there is now looking into other options that probably will have, like as I mentioned, as a title of this, co-benefits. So mitigations, and then we have co-benefits. And then so looking into one solution that I look into is biochar. So biochar is a form of storage of carbon, actually, and it has been very much well documented to improve soil fertility, improve availability of macro and micronutrients, and as well by changing soil structures, it improves as well water use efficiency and nutrient use efficiency. The big question, though, is biochar is source of carbon, which means that if you apply it under continuous flooded system, it may lead to more stimulations of emission. So there are big questions into what are the optimum management practice in recommending biochar as a mitigation solution. So that's kind of one of the big questions that we are addressing here at IRRI at the moment, where we're looking into what optimum rates will generate co-benefits that will reduce greenhouse gas and economic performance. We're looking as well, like where are as well the recommendations domain for maximum impact if we are going to promote biochar as mitigation solutions. And of course, how can we integrate biochar in a best bet combinations of management practice, and that would be kind of a part of the methodology for carbon claim, but as well for sustainability, rice production certifications, or additional different standards that can be available for farmers to gain benefits in the adoptions of biochar. So this is still ongoing research, but at the moment, I don't yet have very significant results to share, but hopefully, certainly in the next sessions, I'll be more than happy to share with you some of the results. The other thing that we're looking at as well is the use of sulfate-based amendment. So in here, in this graph here, it's a result of a meta-analysis that conducted by some of our partners in the US, where they look into different rates of applications of sulfur in the soil and what will be the impact of that in the emission of methane. So what they have proposed here in this analysis and this study is that with 200 kilograms per hectare of sulfur, you can aim to obtain 40% of reductions. But not all soil will be convenient and then really as well adapted for such a high applications of sulfur. So I'll give an example here at Erie in our experimental stations. Our recommendations of sulfur applications is around 10 kilograms per hectare, and that's for maintenance to avoid any issues of mining in the soils and continuous deficiency problems with sulfur. And so with 10 kilograms per hectare, as you can see, if we rely on this graph, then we may say there will be no response at all. But from our research, by applying only just 10 kilograms per hectare versus no applications of 10 kilograms per hectare, we can observe a reductions by 20%. And then so that result is really telling us that solutions that will be driven or based on sulfate-based amendment for soil has to be site-specific, system-specific, and that is another question as well that we are kind of exploring, and certainly maybe something that may be applicable as well with the Indonesian environments. In terms of sulfate-based amendment, again as well, there are already good documentations on the switch between, on the shift from using ammonium sulfate versus urea. And in here, it's the cost that maybe drives that change. But overall, you can aim on 40% of reductions of emission by just not using urea, but using ammonium sulfate. In the Philippines, the cost of ammonium sulfate and ureas is the same. So that as a mitigation solution will be certainly easy to promote. But I know that in different countries, socioeconomic context will be different. Ammonium sulfate is coming at a bit high cost. So that as well is something that that needs to be considered. And in the context of low emissions, you have the opportunity to have the carbon credit to shoulder the cost of all of this practice change. So the cost of ammonium sulfate can certainly be incorporated there, but at the moment we don't have yet a methodology that is really taking that account. So that as well is part on some investment and effort that Erie is doing. Another big questions of sustainability in terms of mitigations is the change in the systems that we implement when we move from continuous flooded to non-flooded system. And one big question is the availability of heavy metals, so mainly arsenic and cadmium. These are some unattended effect that's coming with mitigation solutions. And it's something as well that needs to be addressed and some research topic that needs to be considered. So this is again calling for having a targeted technologies when they are disseminated or recommended, because not all rice areas are the same and not the risk in rice areas are all the same. So AWD disseminations as a mitigation solution has as well to address the questions on recommendations domain and avoiding areas where this risk of heavy metals may come. But this is kind of like at the moment still very infancy. We don't really have a big project that will address this, but these are things that we are looking into forwards to ensure that when we have mitigation solutions, we have co-benefits and we control the unintended effect. So in a nutshell, what I was really aiming to share with you is that mitigation interventions and reducing methane emissions in rice has already existing solutions. And there are as well other coming new technology that's coming. But overall, the way how to approach these solutions requires proper quantifications, but as well understanding of recommendation domains. So then we can really map out these co-benefits and really achieve them. So maintaining yield is key for any innovations for low emission in rice. and that is like kind of a non-negotiable. So either your solution has to increase yield or at least maintain yield. So any situations where you have reductions of yield or risk of reductions of yield, that will have some impact on the effectivity of the adoptions, but also the disseminations of the technology. The next one is water, because water is really kind of like the main entry point and the main factors that driving the emissions in rice system. So solutions that is addressing water accessibility, water availability, and water dynamics and water footprints in rice systems will always have mitigations interventions. But as well, all of these solutions has to pay attention that they are addressing nutrient use efficiency. And at this stage, the main focus will be on nitrogen use efficiency. And in this graph here, I didn't add in on the nutrient or the element that caused a risk, but that as well is addressing the risk. So one thing that I didn't mention today as well is that all of these co-benefits on productivity and sustainability, and then with mitigations, microbiome can really play a big role, and there are a lot of interest around that. So then we can still maintain our rice productions for its contribution to economic growth, but as well to its role for food security, and as well for green transformations of agri-food system. So this kind of like really what are our how to say that, our visions or directions, what we have as a boundaries or borders, to make sure that all interventions that we develop in terms of mitigations are having this impact and having these co-benefits as we move forward. So I'm going to stop here, and I hope I shared with you some quite of insight on where we go moving forward, and all of the focus of IRI as we move for the next 65 years in research. So thank you.
Thank you, Ando. That is really wonderful, and I think we need to start thinking of, I keep always saying, not only to go for production, but how do we produce, be it good way, good manner, good for environment, good for people. Thank you, Ando, for the insight.
Thank you very much.
Participants, I think we have, how many minutes do we have? We have 25 minutes, or 23 minutes, for discussion. So there are some questions already, Hong and Ando, in the chat. I don't know whether you can follow it or not, but there are questions from Budi, Sari, Bu Sari, Pak Ishak, Sumandi, Iskandar, and also from Ibu Bahagiawati. Yeah. So I don't know how to handle this, Hong. I think I will give you first because you might have time to see the chat, and I know that you have answered some of Buddhist questions and Sari. So Hong, I will just give you first the floor and respond to the question. Thank you, Hong.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hasil, and everyone. So one by one, something I can go on my expertise first, and then some greenhouse gas emission and other sides maybe Endo can help. For Budi, as I mentioned, great to see you here, Budi. Thank you very much for the interest question, and then we are happy to support. Maybe you to bring to the government is can send official request to IRI. At the moment, is Dr. Chong Su Sing is a regional director of IRI and cover Indonesia, as I know. And then you might reach to him, and then we can work with him how to allocate some ongoing activities or develop new project for with Indonesia, with you or something like that. So, but on principle, we are happy to support, and it with some with some things to adapt the technology there. For another is Dr. Iskandar is so I answer the question is here is the farmers respond to the how farmer respond to the innovation is yes, when the mechanized ideas are combined, fertilizer displacement, the SHNM and etc. rice management demonstrated the benefits in the field. The farmers are really interested in that, and also they are willing to adopt as a modernized rice transformation. However, is the still barrier as always is not all not, the mechanized the new like a mechanized shifting service provider is not available everywhere yet. That is the barriers. So and then also rice straw as well. So for example, it's composting machine. It's not we just developed several business model. Now it's the government is working on a loan project with World Bank around 400 million US dollar, more than 400 million US dollar to support for this program, and hopefully it's it will significantly contribute to that program, and so and hopefully farmer will be strongly support to adopt to transform the rice productions in Vietnam to be higher productivity and lower emission. There is another question I answer already. Is for Vietnam is around the average the median price field blocks is around 0.5 to 2 hectares. The question is if for 0.25 hectare per blocks, yes, we can adapt some technologies. For example, it's a mechanized can be just reduce the 6 rows. For example, in the Mekong River Delta, we use 16 rows, but we provide technology transfer to Thailand and the Philippines coming now is around 10 rows. We still able to reduce to 8 rows. So for small fields. However, it's in long term is we need to develop a comprehensive or deep assessment. Should we reduce the machine size, or should we consolidate the field like a strategy of the government? And what are the trade-offs? So what are the more benefits, higher efficiency in terms of cost benefit, in terms of return investment, return on investment, or etc. So we are happy to support that. For the fertilizer displacement, usually we heard about currently we heard about the slow release or control release fertilizer. That one is still not yet commercialized everywhere. However, it's our technology is a mechanized directly combined with fertilizer displacement. We just use the normal fertilizer, but granular, not the powder, but granular fertilizer. So I mentioned there is a 2 to 4 millimeter diameter, and that one is at the moment is produced by several companies in Vietnam, like Badan Fertilizer, the MTK Fertilizer Company, etc. However, I think is that technology is if the company in Indonesia they see that is they can do well, because not very a high-tech technology. Granular is easy. It's not very complicated technology. Yes, so that for now. I think maybe I leave time for Dr. Ando. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Hong. I think later on maybe Ando can also answer the question, Hong, concerning what is how much is the benefit that farmers can get from implementing the technology. I think that is one question somewhere there. Anyway, Hong, I will just how much, Hong? Can you give pickup number?
Maybe that one I can. So okay. So we yeah, we have to count per hectare. But of course, farmers with the small field and the big field is different cost benefits. But per hectare is 1 million hectare rice program is practice or technical package demonstrating increase around 7 to around 20% of cost net profit. It means that because of reduced input cost, for example, is fertilizer use 20 to 30% and reduce seeds, reduce pesticides together, and increase productivity, and then increase rice quality. So the private sector or rice exporter, they bought or they buy rice is a week increase around 3% of the rice price. So that is a increase together is a net profit around 7 to 20%. So 7 to 20% is equal to, so in Vietnam is the benefits. So the production cost is around $1,000 per hectare. That is a production cost. The income is around 2,000 to 3,000 US dollar per hectare if you want to count. So the net profit is around, usually is around 1,000, average is 1,000 million. I mean that the common net profit is around 1,000 US dollar per hectare. So that it increased 7% to 20%. So being able to increase around like 200 to more than is 200 to around 500 US dollar per hectare.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks. That is really encouraging, you know. So you have practiced it for 1 million hectare. Wow, that's that's a lot of money as well, benefit, you know. Okay, thank you, Hong. So maybe we will wait and see the time. If the time still permit, maybe we can ask more question, Hong. So, but now I would like to ask Ando to answer some questions. Yes.
One more question just coming from to me. I can answer, and then because I might leave earlier. So so from Dr. Aris here is from PRTP. So for DSR in Vietnam, do unique varieties with specific traits? No, it is we just use normal variety, but the seed treatment before seeding is different. It is it needs to suitable for mechanized seeding. We do wet seeding. That one is two option. One is mechanized wet seeding. Is we use pre-germinated seeds. So we only use like a certified seeds, but the same varieties for broadcast seeding or transplanting. For dry seeding, so we use not pre-germinated. I mean that normal seeds before germinations. So, but with some specific treatment, and then for dry seeding to avoid insect during dry seeding. But I'm happy to share more information. Please share with me. Send me the email, and then I can answer, provide some information already published. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hong. I ask you one more question. I think it's from Ibu Bahagiawati. What do you think about the perennial rice, Hong, with this technology? Perennial rice. Perennial rice.
The raccoon.
You know, yeah. How do you do that with machinery? Yeah, it's mainly for rattooning actually. Anyway,
okay.
Does it work?
No, we haven't tested yet. But for raccoon dry, I think precision farming need to be there, because for harvesting, if you do the broadcast seeding, is not work. Does not work. But you need precision mechanized seeding for stronger, for increase for improve the roots. But maybe Ando can, she has worked with Saito and other scientists in headquarters. She might provide more information for that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Hung.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So, Ando, I think you have chance to read the chats, yeah? So,
Yes.
please.
Okay, so I think I was just gonna answer quickly. I think the raccoon questions. So raccoon, because it stayed longer in the field, may have some kind of like risk of increasing emissions from the field. But if you look into the system-wide in terms of footprint of the inputs that's been used, footprints of all the land preparations, then you may have a reduced carbon footprint in the rice system. So there are, I think we need to clarify. So the work that I've shared with you today is about emissions, which is the greenhouse gas footprint in the field when you produce the rice from sowing to harvesting. But there are a bigger footprint, and I think that's where as well Hong has bring in more insight, is the carbon footprint of our rice productions, and that will include the use of the inputs, the carbon, the machineries that are used in the field, all the source of emissions in the entire enterprise of rice system. So I think we have to kind of make a differentiations between that. Raccoon rice is improving efficiency, improving land use efficiency, in particular land productivity. The inputs as well are reduced on the raccoon rice, so there's a high potentials there for reductions of emissions. But if we're looking into the methane component, then we may have a kind of a risk there of higher emissions because the field will be continuously flooded because you have longer period. But there are a lot of innovations at the moment looking into the varieties for raccoon. And then so you may have, let's say, for example, 200 days of raccoon crop and two yield. And that's kind of a shorter than a 2 seasons of rice yield. So then emissions will be reduced. There's a lot of things that needs to be considered, and there's still not yet a very clear evaluations on that. But raccoon is a good system for increasing productivities and reducing as well some of the disturbance in the system. So for sustainability and soil health, raccoon has high benefits and impact. Okay, so I will go on. So I think I've already partially responded to Budi's questions on the mechanizations. How can it be a factor for low carbon farming? Yes, mechanizations may require more energy, cause more emissions compared to manual, but it's going to increase productivity. So in that sense, the productivity gain that you have will reduce the intensity of emissions per kilograms of rice produced. So that as well is another indicators on the evaluations of low emission systems and sustainability in rice. So it's not just about the absolute amount that you reduce, but as well the amount that you reduce per kilograms of rice that you produce. So that's where mechanizations can come in, and mechanizations facilitate adoptions of any progressive technologies and new technologies. Farmers that would be more open to mechanizations would be open with other solutions, but at the same time, mechanizations facilitate really the scaling all of these technologies, because you can really land larger areas because you have access to mechanizations machineries. Going down to further questions, morely on like what's the difference between methane productions in upland rice and irrigated rice. So upland rice, if we have terminology correct and the same, upland rice means rice grown like wheat, aerobic rice, no flooded water. Then upland rice won't have really methane emission. The methane emission there will be very minimum, and we assume that there's not the problems of methane emission. Irrigated rice, if it's grown under flooded, low-lying areas, definitely because we have ponded water, we're going to have high amount of emissions. So like as I mentioned in my presentations, the average value will sit around 0.9 kilograms per hectare for our regions where from the global map, it can be up to 0.5 as a maximum value. And then so AWD is applied in upland rice. Normally you don't, because upland rice is already dry, so it's not AWD, it's not alternate waiting and drying anymore, it's just irrigating normal irrigations. What tools needed for AWD? AWD by design requires you to monitor water levels. So any tools that will help to monitor water levels are what's required, because you need to monitor that water levels to avoid risk of water deficiency for your crop. So you can think about the PVC pipes, we can think about just having a gauge stick in the water, and we can think about some remote sensing sensors as well for water levels in the field. Okay, so methane oxidizing and methane cleansing microbe, that's one of the solutions that would be certainly very much targeted for areas where we cannot implement AWD. And if you remember the slide that I presented of the different rice areas, where we have this stagnant water that we cannot drain, the low-laying areas, the swampy areas, certainly methane oxidizing solutions based on microbe solutions will be the next steps in terms of emission mitigation solutions. So there are a lot of research already around that, and I think there are some private companies who are already proposing that they have some product on that, but these are still need a lot of verifications and testing, but as well the unintended impact. Like, okay, when we are gonna change some of the dynamic of this microbe in the soil, what that means for the beneficial microbes for nutrient fixations or mineralization. So could we reduce fertilizer rate as well by using AWD? This is certainly a very interesting research questions, and let's be honest, I think in a way we didn't really look into that yet. We are still recommending fertilizer applications in AWD as the one that's applied for just intensive rice systems with continuous flooded, because the assumption is that under AWD you optimize your water management, and then with continuous flooded as well, you are not expected to have any problems of water, but definitely because of this longer dry period, you have a different mineralization process of your fertilizer. So that's certainly a gap in the research. So I think RCM team is moving forward to develop that, having a fertilizers recommendations for AWD practice. Okay, so the use of tolerant herbicide. So I mentioned the tolerant herbicide because tolerant herbicide is a kind of an enabling technologies for direct seeded rice adoption. But one of the challenge in the promotions of AWD in rice fields for farmers as well as problems of weeds. So this is where herbicide tolerant varieties can play a role, not by directly reducing emissions, but by enabling and facilitating the adoptions of these technologies that has direct effect of emissions. So that will be direct seeded rice and then AWD, or aerobic rice in general. Okay, so I think that's all for me. The rest was for Hong.
Thank you. Thank you, Ando. I think, I don't know, is Arlene question is here already or not? There's actually one more question from Arlene. I don't see that in the chat anyway, but maybe I can ask. No, you don't see that. I didn't see that, Ando. Yeah, but she was asking Arlene, you know Arlene, right? She was
Yes.
asking about PGPR, microbe and greenhouse gas emission
Yeah,
reduction.
that's the methane oxidizing and methanotroph
Okay.
microbiome. So I've answered that one already earlier.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ando. So we have 1 more minute. So before we close, we change. So I see Ari is raising his hand. And so why don't we have just voice questions now? Pak Aris, go.
Thank you, Pak Hasil. Just to follow up my question to Ando about the benefit of AWD to farmer, because we know that we have a lot of benefit for AWD for environment, of course, but for farmers, we need to find more benefit to promote this technology to farmers, because we know when we, as your explanation, when we apply AWD, it will be a higher cost on with management for farmers. So I think we look forward for IRI to give more information about, for example, maybe we can reduce fertilizer so farmers can benefit from that or other benefit. I think that's my point. Thank you very much, Ando, for the explanation.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're correct on that one, that adoptions of AWD will be driving more, but what are the benefits for farmers? So documentations of this certainly is really key. So yeah, thank you.
Well, Ando, Hong, and participants, I think our time is up. So thank you so much, Ando and Hong, and also participants for your insights. And I think it's really useful for us, Indonesia, especially because just like the director said, Pak Yudis, Indonesia is keep increasing,
Thank you very
increasing,
much.
increasing. But, you know, increasing is good, but we have to really also keep the environment safe and, you know, more benefit to the farmers. Thank you so much, Hung and Ando. Let's give Ando and Hung a big applause.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Well, we move to the
Thank
next
you.
session.
Thank you very much.
Let me check.
Thank you,
whether-
Hong. Thank you, Ando. Thank you very much.
Whether Dr. Kato is already with us?
Long time no see.
Dr. Kato, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for, I know that you have a busy schedule, Yoichi, that then we are happy that you are already here. So we move on, moving to the second session. We now welcome our third speaker, Dr. Yuichiro Kato from the University of Tokyo. Dr. Kato, or Professor Kato, he knows Indonesia very well. So you may ask anything to him, yeah, because he has been visiting even our remote area. So the title of his presentation is Sustainable Development of Rice-Based System in Asia. Professor Kato is a professor in Department of Global Agriculture Studies at the Graduate School of Agriculture and Life Sciences, the University of Tokyo. He is currently serving as department head. He received his PhD in crop physiology from University of Tokyo in 2007. His recent professional experience, including professor, the University of Tokyo from 2020 to present, scientist at IRI from 2011 to 2017. He received 8 Young Investigator Awards from the Foundation of Agriculture Science of Japan. He also received the 30th Research Award for Young Scientists in 2008 from Japan Society of Crop Science. This is very important, Dr. Prof. Kato. He has editorial roles. He served the editorial advisory boards for several leading journals, including Field Crops Research, European Journal of Agronomy, the Crop Journal, Crop and Environment, Plant Production Science as associate editor. I think BRIN researchers like this very much, Prof. Kato. He is his research impact with age index 35, ISI journal publication 89. So I mean, Dr. Kato, Prof. Kato is really a well-known scientist. So once again, the title of his presentation is Sustainable Development of Rice-Based System in Asia. Let's give him a warm round of applause. Prof. Kato, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you so much, Bahasil, for kind introduction. And I see lots of friends in Indonesia, including Pak Izal. Is in Kalimantan, right? And Budi also, I saw him. Also Aris, Uran, Padin, Susi, many. Yeah, I'm quite happy to be here again. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for joining the special seminar today. I'm sorry, I had a previous engagement and we couldn't attend the previous sessions by Dr. Hun and Dr. Ando. And once again, I have to say thank you so much for to Dr. Yudis and Dr. Aris and Dr. Indras BRIN Chibinon, who invited me to this seminar. And then they gave me a special topic of my talk. Yeah, they asked me, can you talk about the sustainability in rice farming? And it's really a broad and a big challenge to me. And I wondered, because I'm an agronomist and I cannot talk about molecular biology or extension or social science. So, and then knowing that Ando and Hun, they discussed I think, straw management and LCA or low methane emission. So I decided to have a bit broader discussion on sustainability itself in rice farming in Asia. Okay. Yeah, these are my content today, consisting of 3 topics. First, well, once again, I think everyone knows about the sustainability in rice farming. I think for the last 1 hour, 2 hours, everyone discussed sustainability or sustainable rice farming. But let's discuss again, how do we interpret sustainability in rice science or crop science? That's the first thing. And then let me briefly explain about some example of sustainability in rice agronomy. And the third part is I'd like to give you some brief reflections. So the topic of my objective of my talk is to discuss, among all, sustainability in rice production, once again, and the role of rice science or crop science agronomists or breeders in sustainable farming. Okay. Well, I'd like to start with this figure. Let's revisit the trends in crop production science towards sustainability. People say that there are 5 aspects in production, namely productivity, stability, sustainability, autonomy, and equality. Particularly in crop science or rice science, we need to discuss the 3 former parts mainly, like production and sustainability and stability and sustainability. Left part, we often see that kind of system over the time. Productivity doesn't change. It can be seen in normal irrigated rice ecosystem. But second part, neither stable nor sustainable. Neither stable nor sustainable. This kind of trend can be seen in rain-fed upland ecosystem, particularly in the slash and burn system. Unstable but gradual yield decline can be seen because of overpopulation of these things. Soil fertility gets lower and lower over time. Third part, sustainable. Well, low productivity but sustainable but not stable. This kind of trend can be seen typically in rain-fed ecosystem, a suboptimal ecosystem like a flood and drought environment. Well, stable, but a huge fluctuation. Last, this can be seen in the long-term experiments without fertilizer inputs in irrigated rice ecosystem. I think everyone experienced. And then when we look at the trend, general trends in research on rice production or crop production in general, we see the gradual shift from yield potential work or productivity work to yield gap, focusing on stability, then moving to resource saving in the name of sustainable production. And then nowadays, context gradually changed again. Let me briefly explain about it. Well, this slide may provoke some of the scientists, particularly the participants from IRI, Ando and Fun, and also Pahasil, connected to IRI, Indonesia. Well, IRI, as you all know, IRI published a number of books for the last 65 years since its establishment, and I cannot get them all in one slide. So let me quickly pick up totally how many books? 9 books here to quickly discuss how IRI discussed rice production. Well, IRA was released in 1966, I think everyone knows, and the Green Revolution happened. And then following up the Green Revolution, particularly in tropical Asia, people started to discuss the productivity. Yeah, the slogan was how to make full use of semi-dwarf high-yielding varieties. So people discussed the associated technologies such as crop intensification, because development of semi-dwarf high-yielding varieties, these varieties have shorter duration days, so we could intensify or increase the cropping index in 1 year. And also weed management has been intensively studied during that period. Also irrigation management, even a small farm mechanization was also pursued during that time. And I think for the most of the crop scientists or crop physiologists, this book, Shoichi Yoshida's Fundamentals of Rice Crop Science, is one of the Bibles for you, including me. Then this happened during 1970s and 80s. Then following up that period, people moved to discuss stability. And then they noticed that still rain-fed ecosystem is lagged behind. So this is during the post-Green Revolution, during 1980s and 90s, people started to focus on rain-fed or stress-tolerant suboptimal environments, I think including Indonesia. Then published lots of books. I think some of the books are quite familiar to you. So people aim to close yield gap by focusing on such suboptimal environment. And then later on, people started to discuss sustainability, knowing that we need to move on to resource-wise farming or resource use efficient farming. Such kind of work happened during 1990s and 2000. Well, a while ago, people discussed SSNM or RCM. Akim Doberman and his colleagues started to work on it during 1990s with the strong collaboration with soil scientists and nutrition experts. And also, Bas Boom and other people, TP Ton, other people started to talk about here, also Dr. Buyan during 1990s, about the efficient water management in rice field. And they developed AWD and conceptualized it. First, AWD, water saving was targeted, and but later on, as Ando emphasized, people moved on to carbon emission things. But anyway, during 1990s and 2000s, people still focused on grain yield or productivity plus something else, money. But still people talk about the production itself in the name of economic sustainability for livelihood. But, entering this century, 21st century, people started to gradually move on to environmental sustainability other than production itself. I think this is a famous figure updated in 2023 in Planetary Boundaries Report. And with this, I think, and this is quite familiar to everyone, the red zone is under crisis, like microplastics, pesticide, herbicide, over-fertilization, eutrophication, and heating or global warming, and also biodiversity loss. These are the topics that we have to deal with these days in the name of environmental sustainability. So what I want to say here in rice science is that sustainability context changed. In my previous slide, I just focus on productivity, sustainable production, okay? But here, context changed. It expanded from sustainable production, like a resource-saving farming or soil fertility management, to the balance of multi-functions in rice farming. So with this, people started to emphasize the externality in crop production, such as microplastics, agrochemicals, biodiversity, eutrophication, and low carbon, these things. So following that trend, during 2010s, during the last 2 decades, ED's work also shifted toward that way. Lots of extensive analysis of multifunctions in rice production happened in the Polygap project, CISA projects, these things, particularly focusing on irrigated rice system. That part is the J.K. Lada did lots of studies on environmental footprint in South Asia. So not only the grain yield, he also compared several scenarios for water inputs and light use efficiency, nitrogen fertilizer input, labor, energy, income as well. Right side, this is the Grant Singleton and his colleagues, Krishna, Devkota, others. They also compares the several parameters other than grain yield to discuss sustainable farming in general, like labor, profit, water, and gas emission, and some other fertilizer and the pesticide. So they published the book in 2023. So that's the quite provoking slogan. We discussed yield gap few decades ago. Now we started to discuss GAP, good agriculture products. We still discuss gap, but meaning has been changed. So I'd like to move on to the second part, examples of sustainability in rice agronomy. I think everyone knows about the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We need urgent actions for the recovery and the conservation of species, so that the agricultural land should be managed sustainably. And for, reflecting such trend, particularly the European Society for Agronomy, the people in Europe seriously discuss agroecology or ecosystem services in crop production or rice, agricultural field. This trend is quite different from how Asian people discuss the farming system. Quite interesting. So the question is, how can we balance the multifunctions? Well, good example is biodiversity and productivity. For example, let's look at the rice production in the lower Mekong River Basin. Rice fields function as wetland ecosystem as well, but the biodiversity loss is concerned through agricultural development. As you can see, Indo-Burma region is one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world, but Cambodia started to intensively import agrochemical products such as herbicide and pesticide in the quick expansion of direct seeded rice system. But we can still see rare species in farmer fields. So let's see this one, this species and this species. I think that this is also common in Indonesia. So the question as a scientist, for the scientist, is how can we balance the multifunctions? There are mainly two concepts to protect biodiversity in rice farming systems. One is land sparing, like protecting the special zones for the nature conservation, but the other areas we have to focus on rice production or crop production. Other thing is to combine the species conservation, in situ conservation, as well as crop production, combine two things together. But if we pass to the left side, I think most of the people in the world focus on this by protecting the special zone in the name of national park. But some of the species favor disturbance, like a clearance by the tillage or harvest. But if we pass to the right side, we need to compromise the crop production. So we discussed a lot, and we decided to have new concept named micro-sparing or micro-zoning. In situ conservation as well as focus on intensive rice farming. So interior area we just focus on the rice production, but in the margin, like as we saw here, margin area, we can still focus on the species conservation. This part is really good for species conservation because we can see various water conditions favoring the, species conservation. And also we can expect influx from neighboring habitat. And also probably intensive management, application of herbicide pesticides can less affect species here. So we did a lot of survey in Cambodia, in the farmers field, particularly focusing on direct seeded rice. And we realized that the land sharing concept may not work. Just a slight increase in weed infestation, like a weed cover, we see huge yield loss, like a 20 to 25% of weed infestation causes 50% yield loss. We cannot accept it. So that's one of the reasons why I emphasize the micro-sparing in this presentation. And once again, yes, when focusing on the margin area, this area can be targeted for plant species conservation. When we compare the number of plant species per plot, on the band, we can still see lots of species, but the interior part, we can see only a few species, but the margin, we have flora from both bands, aerobic part and interiors, anaerobic part. So we see both species adapted to the dry land area and the flooded part, aquatic and non-aquatic species. Moving on to tropical rainfed ecosystem, yes, definitely climate change adaptation, not mitigation, is vital. So we did lots of studies here for this environment. In the CURE project, yes, I can see several staff or collaborators during the last 2 decades. And Indonesia published the most important book here in 2015. More erratic rainfall patterns under the climate change happening. But the good news is that we now have a series of stress-tolerant rice near-oceanic lines. One of the most famous example is the sub-1 varieties have been released. Also, Indonesia, people have sub-1 rice varieties. Together with the development of cultivars, we also developed the water-wise or water use efficient planting system with direct seeding. I think Indonesia already developed a good system with Gogorancha during 1970s and 80s. So this is also an example in I think central Luzon, Philippines. We compared 3 systems, namely dry direct seeded rice, wet seeded rice, and transplanted rice. Switching from the transplanted rice to dry direct seeded rice, Gogorancha, we could safely advance the planting season, then the harvest earlier, escaping the terminal drought in the early dry season, at the risk of water fluctuation at the beginning. So some risk of early season drought in dry direct seeded rice. Transplanted rice, yes, people start to paddle the soil and the transplant rice well after the start of the wet season. So people can escape the early season drought, but with a huge risk of encountering the terminal droughts. So we did a lots of on-farm demonstration assessment of newly developed drought-tolerant rice varieties. This is one of the examples. New drought-tolerant cultivars in the Philippines and also farmer cultivar. We saw good crop emergence under drought conditions. Also, this impact was also continued until the end. So we also see the yield advantage. This part. However, this drought-tolerant cultivar had low yield potential, so we still observe the crossover interaction between environment and the genotype. Then moving on to the basic understanding of the mechanism why newly developed drought-tolerant cultivars performed better under drought conditions, focusing on germination. So we did lots of pot experiments and realized or found that quick moisture absorption during germination is an important trait for the adaptation to drought. during germination stage. And we also found that not all drought-tolerant varieties have seed vigor under drought conditions, because most of the drought-tolerant breeding program focus on transplanting system. So that's also important message for the breeders. I think many breeders are attending this seminar. Moving on to the molecular part, from the farmer field to gene, we also did some molecular study, and they realized that there's some important, gene expressions are involved in the quick moisture absorption and good germination under water stress. Everyone knows that the germination in rice is triggered by the activation of alpha amylase. Activation of alpha amylase is mainly triggered by the two important hormones, namely gibberellic acid, GA and ABA. These two hormones are also regulated by the reactive oxygen species under water stress. And we could see the huge genetic variation in this hormonal signaling pathways. High GA synthesis capacity and high ABA catabolism facilitate germination under water stress. We also found that. So key information here is what we observed in the farmers field in the extension and demonstration program was also evidenced at the molecular level in the laboratory. So we already know that why this new variety is very good under drought condition. Let's go back to the farmers field, where we always need to start with the reality in rice farmers. How do they cultivate rice? Yes, they use 4-wheel tractor these days in the Philippines, but they always talk about money. One time of 4-wheel tractor operation is $50 per hectare each time. So their purpose is to how to reduce the number of cultivation. The less cultivation or zero tillage means less money. So in extreme case, they just use one pass of rotavator and the broadcast seeds, that's all. And also random seed incorporation is quite popular still. I think it also happens in Indonesia. So save money, but a huge loss in the end. They broadcast huge amounts of seeds. So we did lots of surveys of the actual seeding depth in the farmers field and realized that huge variation in seeding depth. We also saw the ungerminated seeds at depth and also at surface. If they put the seeds at surface, of course, seeds of normal varieties can hardly germinate because they are not drought tolerant. Seeds placed at depth can hardly emerge because it's too deep. So that clearly indicates that we need a good mechanization option to standardize or stabilize the seeding depth. But the next question is, to how many cm, how many centimeters should we put the seeds under drought conditions in Gogorancha? So we also did a lots of genotype survey to cope with drought. So then here, left side clearly shows that there is a huge variation, genetic variation in seed emergence. When we put the seeds at 85 millimeters, and we also did a grain yield trial, and they observed that having the drought, the deep soil tolerance would be still advantageous in terms of grain yield here. So next question is, how can we adjust the soil depth for drought adaptation? We also did a lot of morphology and physiology study, but I have to skip due to the time limitation. So the question is, at which depth should we sow? So we did a lot of modeling studies, and it found that under drought conditions, we should put the seeds at depth, but under wet conditions, we have to sow the seeds at the shallower layers. So it depends on the moisture regimes. Moving on to the global warming in the temperate rice ecosystem, I think people in Indonesia may not be familiar with the temperate rice ecosystems, but I have to disclose this issue as a Japanese people. There are lots of issues and opportunities for sustainable intensification. Heat stress and warm nights are emerging issues even in Japan, but the expanded cultivation period is also good news for us in temperate regions. Now we started to discuss and intensively study ratoon rice systems. The slogan is a little bit different in the context from the context in Indonesia. We now have only one rice season in Japan and temperate environment, but we now moving on to 150 cropping index by growing ratoon rice. So everyone knows about the system, right? So we are now doing lots of yield surveys in Japan, southern part of Japan, and then central part of Japan, Tokyo. Of course, in the cooler environment, having the good ratoon rice yield is always a challenge, but we still see the 30% of yield of ratoon rice compared with the main rice crop. And the southern part of Japan, well, the result is really better, much better. Like even if we use the current Japonica high quality rice cultivars, we see 50% of rice production compared with main rice crop. Yes, I have to refer to Saribu here, of course. I also started some surveys in Bali Island, BRIN province, particularly Regency. Cut twice at harvest Indonesian ratoon rice in the name of Saribu. Well, in temperate regions, we just cut once to get ratoon rice to shorten the cultivation period. But people in Indonesia emphasize they need to cut twice to have better ratooning response. I think we can discuss this issue later. Yes, of course, Tadafujan rain-fed lowland can be also targeted in the name of Saribu in Indonesia. We also did some preliminary study with Dr. Untun Susanto in Jaknang, because in that area, water is available only for 7 months. And double rice cropping, Gogorancha, Warikjirami, it's still risky, although farmers do that, that cropping system. So we also did a yield survey. And I think everyone knows that Impari 38 is one of the latest released drought-tolerant cultivars, but not all the drought-tolerant cultivars have good ratooning ability under rain-fed conditions. Impari 39 is also drought-tolerant, but not good. They don't have good response to ratooning. Third part, I like to wrap up my talk with some reflections. Yes, where should we go with sustainability? That's the question at the beginning, from the beginning. So I would like to suggest now we have to discuss from sustainability to value creation agriculture. The value could be ethical or cultural, but a chunk of people emphasize, we need to move on to organic farming because they believe organic farming is really good. But this is cultural value or ethical value, I would like to say. But if we discuss, when we discuss the value in rice farming, commonly we discuss economic thing, caloric thing, or nutritious thing. One of the things, good movement is that we started to discuss renewable energy. Particularly, people started to discuss agrivoltaics as an emerging idea for livelihood. Organic farming, I think a number of people, attendants here, still love to have organic farming in your target research topic. But, particularly in the temperate Asian countries such as South Korea, Japan, China, although government emphasized to expand organic farming areas, but the actual adoption rate is quite low. Probably one of the reasons would be this. We can still discuss it later. And I'd like to show you, give you some examples of our work on agrivoltaics. This is the, photovoltaic system, solar energy or electricity generation in the same rice field together with rice farming. Of course, we need to compromise rice production. In this case, 6-year average, we had 23% yield reduction and 27% reduced solar radiation, but the total income increased 5 times. That's also important. So livelihood considerably improved at the cost of some yield reduction. So now we did lots of simulation studies by combining the 5 simulation models, including ORIZA. Yes, thank you so much, Ando, for your help. And then now we had good result. Well, if farmers are to target safe rice production, we need to adjust the solar panel angle to have more sunlight to the rice canopy. But those farmers who emphasize the energy generation, more income, they can, go with the default or current status. So still the discussion is how to balance the energy generation and food production. So how to balance the livelihood, income, and food security. So now Japanese government, MAF, Ministry of Agriculture, seriously discuss the national food security and national energy security in the name of renewable energy generation. Yes, yes, I need to disclose this issue as well. Yes, people always discuss genotype by environment interaction, but I like to emphasize this part. We cannot change the environment in crop science. What we can modify is genotype management combination. Breeders mostly touch genotype, and agronomists mostly touch the management. Environment consists of several factors such as climatic, soil, and resource availability, and also some socioeconomic parts. The purpose of crop science and rice science in genotype by management interaction is to manipulate phenotype towards idiotype in a given cultural constraint. I think everyone should remember that what we are doing, what's our purpose in rice science is to always manipulate the phenotype. How many minutes do I have? I have to wrap up.
Yes.
Well, in this
Yes.
case, sorry, so I have to
You have to.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, breeders, agronomists are looking at the same thing, but from the different aspects. That's also interesting. For example, breeders now discuss how to improve direct seeded rice ecosystem, but agronomists touch the land preparation, leveling, ditch, dike to improve the crop germination. Breeders target submergence tolerance, salinity tolerance, but agronomists focus on good drainage system and freshwater irrigation. Breeders touch yield potential and the growth duration, but agronomists do not have option for that. Two messages. Yes, importance of stress tolerance depends on the availability of agronomy options or vice versa. If we have good agronomy options, breeders do not have to focus on that topic. If agronomists do not have such options, breeders really have to focus on that stress tolerance. Second, however, agronomists do not have any option for yield potential and the quality traits, such as growth, duration, and nutritious values. So that's why we often say that variety is an entry point in R&D in rice farming. Sorry, this is the last slide. Any agriculture solution should prioritize ensuring food security and improving farmer livelihoods. The role of crop scientists is to provide solutions and advice about what to be possible in genetic and agronomic improvement. A context changes with the time, but the fundamentals in crop science do not. So we have to memorize that. We need better understanding of gene to phenotype relationship that is interacted with management in a given cultural and biophysical constraint at the target environment. Holistic strategy that integrates multiple disciplines, socioeconomics, environment, agronomy, management, and breeding genotype is essential for sustainable development of rice farming systems. So with that, sorry for the time. Thank you so much for kind listening.
Thank you, Prof. Kato. Thank you so much. I know you have many things to like to deliver, and it's really interesting, but our time is so limited. So, but anyway, so I would like to invite. Oh, sorry, I didn't check the question. I think there are some. There is no question yet in the chat. So, anybody would like to raise questions? But please, what do you call? Raise your hand or say something that I can notice you. No question yet? So far there's no question yet. Anybody would like? Pak Aris?
Ya, Pak. Hasil Pak Budi.
Ya, siapa itu? Please.
Budi.
Go ahead.
Pak.
Go ahead, Pak Budi.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Asil, and see you, Professor Yujikato. I enjoy we meet in the seminar. I have one question. What your opinion or maybe your suggestion about the direct seeding system versus the transplanting system in we in perspective from agricultural low carbon and sustainable agriculture, because in Indonesia we have only maybe less 10% practice of the direct seeding, but some country in Asia maybe the majority is the direct seeding system, like Vietnam and Myanmar are also the rice producer in Asia. Thank you.
Yeah, Pabudi, thank you so much for disclosing the very interesting topic. And yes, Japan as well, adoption of transplanting is still very high, and even government started to promote water saving, dry direct seeded rice for low carbon emission, but adoption rate is still very low. Probably we also need to look at the history or culture of rice farming in two countries, namely Indonesia and Japan, also Korea. Probably people, particularly farmers, might be too familiar with the beautiful rice fields with no weeds and independent rice plants, beautifully transplanted or planted. Particularly the government a few decades ago intensively introduced and disseminated legowo, right? So probably farmers might be too familiar with that system. And the direct seeded rice, we have to compromise the beauty of rice field a little bit, right? Although we emphasize the productivity wouldn't be changed that much, that would also happening in Japan. Also, and then, yes, in terms of carbon emission, we better move on to dry direct seeded rice with water saving. That's really true. But very difficult to answer to that question. But I guess situation would be quite different between outside Java and Java body. Population density, we also have to consider population density and also soil fertility. Probably outside Java, like your place, Sumatra and Kalimantan, probably we can see some success story about direct seeded rice. But Java, drought adaptation in Tadafujan system in central Java, like Java, Jaknam, probably we can still go with Gogorancha, but in, that's my answer.
Thank you, Prof. Kato.
Thank you, Gato.
Any more? Any question to Prof. Kato? If not, I will just use the time, Prof. Kato. If you see the Indonesian now, we are really would like to increase our production. And you have visited like Banyu Asin, right, with Pak Budi or somewhere, yeah. The issue sometimes for sustainability or increasing production is not merely in the agronomic practice, in my opinion, because mostly is in the bigger scale, like, how do public work manage the water, for example. Seems to me the most issue is bigger than agriculture. It's not is like water management as a whole, So it is very difficult for agriculture, seems to me, because it's not sustainable because of it's not looked as a system as a whole. Agriculture production or productivity can be sustainable if everything should hand in hand. Like, take me the real fact, and it's really a big elephant now, where the water cannot be controlled, which is not under our authority. It is under Ministry of Public Work Authority. So some land now are not producing because of the salinity, and also, you really cannot wash the water. So how do you classify that, Prof. Kato? Is it you call it, how do you classify that if that is happening? It's not under our hand, but it is really under somebody's hand, or is under let me just say public work hand.
Okay.
How is your opinion on that?
Okay. It's really a tough question, Hasil, but then thank you so much for questioning me. I would like to say one thing. At the beginning of my talk, I said there are 5 aspects in production, namely productivity, stability, sustainability, autonomy, and equality. I just focus on until sustainability, but later on, SDG talk about dialogue about SDGs will be ending 2030. So people now started to think about the new concept, particularly it will be around well-being. But at the same time, in terms of rice farming, crop science, and rice science, I would say in the next few decades, from now, next few decades, people will start talking about autonomy and equality as well as sustainability. Autonomy is sustainable cycling of resources in the landscape or in the community. So we need some like a community-based actions, like what you said, like a irrigation management as a community in the landscape, and also resources, fertilizers, people, money, all things together. I think in the next few decades, it will happen. So this will be also good research direction in the BRIN. Yeah, that's what I believe. And also equality should be also focused, as you said. So, but the autonomy in the name of recycling or cycling of resources, that will the key aspects in the research. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, so it has to be autonomy. That's interesting you mentioned autonomy. So yeah, you have to, yeah. So Prof. Kato, there are some questions from Aris and Indra Stuti in the chat. I don't know why Indras doesn't want to talk. So Indra's question is a DSR variety.
Yes, thank you so
What
much,
is for
Indra.
breeding?
Yes, it still depends on the target environment. Yeah, carefully looking at the environment, characterization of your target environment. If there are limited agronomy options, then of course breeders have to intensively work on it to have good varieties for better adaptation. But if there are lots of agronomy options already available, breeders have to focus more on the yield potential of the target environment. That's my general comment. And the second point is the upland. That's really a big question. I really don't have clear answer to you, Dr. Aris. Well, we need to discuss it still. Yeah. Sorry, I cannot give you the answer now.
Yeah.
And
there is from Arenal. Salibu. What is the difference? You're mentioning the raccoon type thing, 150.
Yeah, that's really
index cropping. Yeah?
Yes, that's really interesting topic, and we need to seriously look at it. But one of the bottlenecks in the collaborative research between temperate regions and tropical countries like Indonesia is the available genotype is totally different. People use indica varieties in Indonesia, but we use japonica varieties. Well, if we can share the common varieties, and we can, discuss we can scientifically separate the environmental aspects and the genotype aspects. But also literature says that, Japonica indica have clearly different response to rattooning practice. So I really like to focus on such topics, like what would be the, is that the genotype is the reason, or climate is the reason also? Yeah. So I would be, I'm seriously looking for the collaborators in Indonesia for Latin rights work. Thanks so much. Uran, do you have any comments? Uran is here, right?
Who?
Uran.
Untuk.
Right?
Yes. Oh. Yes. Donna, sorry, Donna is raising her hand. Donna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. Sembering. Thank you for opportunity to be here. Nice to attend this fruitful webinar and enjoying very nice presentation. Maybe I have a little question for Professor Kato. And my question addressed to Professor Kato. Could you share some insight with us about how the government in the Philippines addressing the problem of stunting, maybe, and especially the implementation policy by the agricultural sector? Thank you.
Well, it's also important, interesting question, but I left Erie around 7-8 years ago, and I'm not the right person to answer to that question. I'm not so familiar with the Philippine government strategy right now. Well, I think Erie's participants, Ando and Fung, can answer to that. Well, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yes, sorry, Bu Donna. Yeah, many. Okay, thank you, Prof. Kato. Ulan asking again about Salibu. I think this is really interesting topic, Prof. Kato. Yeah, that you mentioned they are different between temperate region and our. Yeah, but anyway, but I think seems to me that Salibu, whatever you call it, the name Ratun, seems to me that there is potential there, but we need really to find out and adjust to our own situation. Yeah. So I'm sorry because the time is 10 minutes past already. So thank you so much. This is really interesting, Prof. Kato. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge with us, and let's give him a big applause. With that, I guess we are coming to the closing session. I would like to thank you all for your participation, especially for our distinguished speakers, Hung, Ando, and also Prof. Kato, for sharing their experience with us. I really encourage all of us, all of you, to continue engaging with the beyond this webinar. I know most of us have already interacted with the speakers here, so we know each other really well. So I hope I'm not Iri rep anymore, Prof. Kato, but I really a big support of Iri. So all of you, please welcome to Indonesia. We are really now still with the current minister. We can reach our self-sufficient now. So our production is really high, but I keep telling our colleague that yes, this is good, this is exciting, but we have to really need to produce you call it good product. I think we call it good product. Yeah, we have to go to the good product. Good product mean sustainable environment. If I can summarize that, good product, environmentally good for farmers, increase the welfare, etc., etc. So it's not just production, but we have to really good for the environment as well. So with that, I now hand the floor back to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hung. See you in Nonglam.
Bu
Thank you
Mulyani
very
ya?
much.
Siapa? Bu Mulyani.
Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Hasil Sembering, for expertly guiding to this session. Ladies and gentlemen, following the insightful sharing session, we would like now to recognize and express our heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished speakers and moderator for their valuable contributions. We will now present the certificates on appreciations. The certificates are presented on the screen. The first appreciations is awarded to Dr. Hang Nguyen Phan, Senior Scientist from International Rice Research Institute, Philippines.
Thank you.
And the second, to Dr. Ando M. Radinelson, also a Senior Scientist from the International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. And the third, to Professor Yoshiro Kato from University of Tokyo, Japan. And of course, we also like to extend our sincere gratitude to Professor Hasil Sambiring, our moderator for today, the senior scientist at the Research Center for Food Crops BRIN. Thank you once again to all of you for sharing your time, knowledge, and expertise with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this insightful webinar. Please don't forget to complete the attendance and a certificate form provided in the chat box. On behalf of the organizing committee, thank you to all speakers, the moderator, and all participants who have joined via Zoom and the YouTube BRIN Indonesia channel. We apologize for any technical issues and sincerely appreciate your patience. Let me close with a short pantun as a token of appreciation. The sun sets low with the golden hue. Wisdom shared, what dim at both deep and wide. Thanks to all each one of you for joining us on this learning ride. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
safe
This
and
is the
have a great day,
combination between
everyone.
Western and Eastern, you know. We meet in the middle. Closing by pantun. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hong, Prof. Kato.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hasil.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Kato.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Pada ngapain ya?